Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions. Bryce Luquet, thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. Like we talked about before we hit record, everybody has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. So with your permission, we're going to start with where you were born, go all the way up to today. And then we want to talk about what you're doing with Palomar Solar and how you're helping people save money and really, honestly, change their lives, improve their lives. So thanks again for being here, bud.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me, Mike.
So where were you born?
I was born in New Orleans, Louisiana.
Yeah. Did you grow up in New Orleans?
I did. Yep. I grew up there. I went to high school there, went to college at LSU. So I was there a good bit.
That's awesome. So you're a Tiger. I love it.
Go Tigers.
That's cool, dude.
Even in bad times.
That's cool. So growing up in New Orleans, what was your favorite thing about growing up there?
Oh man, favorite thing. I think just the atmosphere of New Orleans, growing up there, especially, you get the sense of it, but it's like a giant small town.
Yeah.
You don't know who you're going to run into no matter what part of the city you're in, because you grow up there, you have brothers and they have friends, and there's just big friend groups. And then the atmosphere, the culture of eating and drinking is awesome there. Mardi Gras and parties, and it's just a really fun place in the world. I think it's a very unique part of the country. It feels like it's like European or something,
Yeah.
But it's a good spot.
Yeah, there's a real French influence there, and it's really cool. It's just, and the people are just amazing, absolutely amazing, and the energy in that town. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So growing up, who was the most influential person to you?
Probably my dad, and my mom too. But my dad, I've always looked up to both of my parents, and they've been really good parents. I've been super blessed to have awesome parents. So they were a good guide for me. Yeah, they're my biggest influence, I'd say.
What'd your dad do?
He's an architect, a commercial architect down there. So he's helped with Superdome and other projects.
Wow.
So it's cool when we go around the city pointing at stuff. And it's really
That's
cool.
got to be cool.
Yeah, it's so cool. Oh man,
to go around and go, hey, Dad worked on that. Dad worked. You know what I mean?
Yeah, did the plans for that, and he's describing, how it fits the historic look, and all this architect talk, and it's very interesting stuff.
That's cool, man. So so you went to high school in New Orleans?
Yep. Yeah.
Did you have a favorite sport?
I played soccer.
Yeah.
For the most part, it was all soccer. At one point, growing up, you play all the sports, and then you eventually have to choose one. So I played soccer all the way through college. I loved soccer.
So why was soccer your love?
I don't know. I was really good at it, was one thing. I was good at most of the sports. Throwing a ball, though, it was out. I can't be a quarterback. Baseball was hard because I couldn't throw it. But I was always pretty naturally good with it. I have two older brothers. They both played soccer. So I kind of had to play,
Yeah.
But yeah, I fell in love with it. I was on a good team. We traveled a ton. We got to really high levels of soccer. There's two of the players were playing pro ball right now.
Wow, that's cool.
At the end of their career. So it was a serious team, but it was really fun. Made a lot of awesome friends there too.
That's cool. Did you have a favorite subject in high school?
Biology and anatomy were my favorites.
Really?
Yeah. I've always been fascinated with the workings of things, So when I knew about cells and how they're doing stuff, it was just really cool to me. I studied extra hard for that stuff. And then in college, I did like physiology. I'd majored in kinesiology, human movement,
Okay.
and I started doing. I got really into biology, and then plant physiology was a really cool class. Learning how the plants do all that. You never really taught that until you take that class. And it was so cool how similar it was to how humans work. And I've always liked all that stuff.
That's awesome. Why did you pick kinesiology as your major?
Well, in Louisiana, at least at that time, I think it's still the case. If you do pretty well in high school and you get a good GPA, and then you take the entrance test, like the ACT, and you get a good score on that, then they have a big in-state scholarship that pays full ride. And depending on how well you do, if you crush it on the ACT, they might even pay you a little bit of money for books and stuff.
Wow.
But if you don't go to college right away, you lose out. So every year you skip college, you lose out on a year of the 4-year scholarship. So even though I didn't know what I wanted to do, I knew it would be a good idea to take the full ride. So I started off as a biology major because I knew I liked it, but I really liked how LSU structured the kinesiology program. There were elective classes that were exercise classes. So tennis, running, I did some cool stuff like that. And then one of my favorite things is the anatomy class. If you got an A in the anatomy class, then you can take the lab to actually dissect a human cadaver and learn. And so that was pretty cool. I think it's like one of 2 schools in the country at the time that had a cadaver for undergrads. So that was really cool to me too. And I've always, like I said, been interested in the inner workings. I didn't know what job I wanted or anything. So it's like, let me just learn about stuff that is cool to me.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So you chose after high school to go to LSU. Talk about why you chose LSU.
Well, I actually had 2 or 3 other schools in mind, and it was for soccer scholarships.
Yeah.
They weren't full rides, and they were Division II schools or lower. So, if I was going for it all and trying to make a serious soccer career, I would have tried to do that and maybe bump up to a Division I school. But I decided, I want to play soccer more casually at that point in my life. So then it was about number one, full ride versus paying somewhere.
Right.
And come from a wealthy family. And then number 2 was all my friends were going there because it's in state.
That always helps.
There's so many people. Yeah, it does. Yeah. And, in Louisiana, that culture I was talking about, you make friends in kindergarten.
Yeah.
And you go through elementary school with these and you make best friends. And then a lot of times you go to the same high school or close by, so you stay with them. And then college rolls around and you're all such good friends and let's do it. So you end up, I lived with my friends. There was like a 5-bedroom duplex and there was 6 of us in there and we lived for 3 years together. So that was pretty awesome. So yeah, I just went for that experience really.
That's cool. What was your favorite thing about attending LSU?
The fun. LSU is party school for sure.
Yeah.
I'm all about just living life and having fun. And, it was a party every day, whether it didn't always involve drinking, but, there's pickup soccer and in between classes, you're seeing friends. And it was just like a really fun lifestyle it just felt so free, So
That's cool.
That was a really cool experience for me.
That's awesome, bud. So you graduate from LSU. Where do you go from there?
Well, so while I was at LSU, I got recruited to do door-to-door sales.
Yeah.
And so this guy comes on, he's like, hey, I've done it. Here it is. And this is how much money you can make. This is the experience you get. And I was like, well, and they sold it really well. They were like, what job do you have this summer? Like, I'm going to work at Starbucks or something like that. And they're like, well, you can do that or this, and you'll get an experience and make a heck of a lot more money, even if you're the worst guy there.
Right.
I was like, okay, well, that sounds good. So I tried that and I loved it.
Yeah.
And so you do that for the summer, come back to school, you do it. I did it for the next summer, back to school. And then when I graduated, I wanted to do it more of a full time.
Mm-hmm.
But the pitch that they also had in there was you work 4 months out of the year, like really hard, 6 days a week, knocking doors and whatever. It's you make like a little brotherhood with all the other sales guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then you take off.
Mm-hmm.
And after college, I was like, well, I don't really know what job I want yet. So let me continue doing that. And I can work 6 to 8 months a year
Mm-hmm.
and take the rest of the year off.
How cool is that?
It was awesome. And that was a good time. I was young and that was the best time to travel. So I would do that. I would stop working around October, go travel the world. My brothers were living in Spain, so I'd go visit them and travel Europe. And then I'd come back for Christmas, and
That's cool.
Stay through Mardi Gras in February and then back to work.
Wow.
So that lifestyle was a dream.
That had to have been cool.
Yeah, it was. And that's what led me to beyond. So that was all on the East Coast. I worked in Virginia Beach, Raleigh, North Carolina, Orlando, Florida, Charleston, South Carolina. So those are my summers there. But eventually I wanted to do something that I liked more, that I felt was more impactful. At the time, I was selling home security systems, which is good in its own way, but I wasn't connecting with it. So I wanted to try solar. So, I usually skip a part of why I came to California, but since we're on the show, I'll tell you.
Why do you skip it?
Just to shorten it up. This part is actually crucial to my journey, so I'm glad I'm not skipping it here. So while I was in South Carolina doing the summer sales, this was when I was more full-time. I just one random day walking around downtown, I met some people and they were into aquaponics systems, which is like, it's like growing plants in like a rock medium and connecting that grow bed to a fish tank. And so the fish poo fertilizes the plants and then it gets recycled and cleaned in it. Full cycle.
The full circle. Yeah.
Yeah. So that to me was just amazing. So I started to dabble with that with them, just a hobby. But one of the guys wanted to start a business in California. And I was like, cool, I will be your sales guy.
Yeah.
And so I went to help him with a startup that it didn't really work out, but we moved out to California, to Victorville. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's not really the California you think of when you're
No, it's not.
So yeah, it is. It didn't run its course well. It definitely wasn't planned out. It wasn't a good spot to start, and it ended up failing. And they wanted to move to San Jose to try again. And I was like, well, that's more expensive. We don't have stuff figured out. I need to move on. So then I hit up some solar friends because I wanted to stay here and experience California more. That's when I got into solar, because there was some solar was all the rage. That was like 8 years ago or 9 years ago when I joined solar, and it was huge booming industry in California. So that's where I landed. I've been here ever since. That's
cool, man. Do you mind if we back up just a bit?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So you were recruited into door-to-door sales. Okay. And there are people that are listening to this podcast episode that are absolutely mortified by the idea of talking to somebody they don't know, let alone knocking on a door or going door to door. Okay. So do you mind just taking a second and telling us why it was that you loved it? Like, what was it about it that you loved?
Yeah, sure. I think that's important. I think sales is an industry that has a bad rap. And I think there's a very low barrier to entry. And so everyone can jump in, whether they're good intentions or not. And I think the ones with bad intentions, through lying and cheating and stealing, they end up making sales and having some success. But then they anyways, I'll tell you why. And I think it's important to the whole sales industry.
Sure.
But so I got into it, I'm just a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed college student, eating ramen noodles every day. And what I liked, the atmosphere that we had it's kind of like a boot camp of door-to-door sales, because you go for 4 months and then you go back to your life, So they got apartments for us. So we're all in these apartments in the same complex. And then there was a 11 a.m. training meeting on Monday through Friday. And you would get trained on these communication techniques. So whether it's, how much eye contact, or how to talk, or how to stand so you're not in an aggressive pose,
Right.
how to get people engaged in what you're talking about,
Hmm.
was a really cool skill to me. That's not much practiced anywhere, and it's very much needed. Whenever you're communicating with your kids, with your family, with your friends, if you're not doing it well, it's not as smooth as it could be, and you're kind of wishing that you can communicate better. So that to me was awesome. And then in sales, if anyone's ever done a sales job, and been trained properly, you start learning about the working of the subconscious mind, and
Hmm.
how you can manifest your success, and not just in sales but in life.
Hmm.
And for me, that was the real hook. I'm like, I was always interested in the workings of life, and here's this like ethereal dogma about your subconscious, and I'm like, how does that work? And so I've never knew really about it. I knew, like, okay, like when I brush my teeth, I like zone out, and that's my subconscious working, or it helps my heart beat and stuff like that, right? So
Hmm.
I didn't really know, oh, we have a relationship with it and can use it
Hmm.
to create the world we want.
Hmm.
And so that to me was why I got into it.
Hmm.
And so when you're doing the sales and you're learning this stuff, you're really applying it to the sales part. So, okay, how many sales do I want this week? Okay, so how many doors do I have to knock to talk to that many people? And there's a whole formula.
Hmm.
And then you figure it out. You're like, okay, if I do this much work, I'll get this much success.
Hmm.
And so that was the first of my practicing of manifesting what I wanted in my life.
Right.
And sales done properly is a really, really good experience. I made a lot of friends that
Hmm.
were customers. Any sales guy will have a few stories where they made really good friends in the process.
Hmm.
Well, I met people that we would do barbecues afterwards, and we would just share our stories, and it was just a really cool experience overall, that I wanted to really get good at. And so I stayed with it for years and years until I made my own sales teams and did my own thing.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
If you do sales right, do you agree that you you end up helping people, and because you're helping people and you're adding value to them, because that's really what sales is about, right? Sales is about it's and I learned this early on. I was fortunate enough to be certified by Tony Robbins in sales mastery, and it completely changed. I mean, put everything that I thought sales was on its head. Like, you find out from the person you're talking to what they need, and then you figure out if what you have fills that need, right? And
Oh, exactly.
you figure it out with them, right? So you figure out a way for your product to be a win for them based on what and if it's security systems, it might be that, they've heard things in the night, or they are having a tough time sleeping because they're, scared of what's outside, that kind of, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
But you'll never find that if you don't ask, right? You'll never get there if you don't sit with somebody and say, hey, talk to me about how life is, right? Talk to me about how comfortable you are in this home, that kind of thing, right? And you ask them questions, right? The other thing about the subconscious, this is the thing I would, so have you heard the phrase, when the student's ready, the teacher will appear?
Yes.
That's manifestation. Would you agree?
100%.
Right? So your subconscious has certain things well, actually, let me ask you this. What did you learn about the subconscious that put you on the path to manifestation? What was it about how the subconscious operates in our lives that you learned that led you to where you are today?
Sure. The subconscious is its main objective is to make things easier for you.
Yeah.
And as you try things and they're successful, it kind of learns that pattern, and it revolts back to that, or resets back to that whenever you come into that same situation again. And so that's its job. And so as a conscious thinker, if you want to change that, then you can start making the change, and the subconscious will naturally resist.
Yeah.
Saying, hey, that's not the comfortable stuff we know. And that resistance is what kills a lot of people's dreams, because they like, oh, you're right. Like, let me go back to the easy path that has already been programmed.
Right.
And to manifest is the art of practicing the new behavior until your subconscious mind makes a new program and accepts it as, this is the comfortable route now. This is who we are now. This is what we do. And so that's what I learned, is that this thing is here to help me. And if I don't pay attention, then I'm going to be stuck where I'm at forever.
Right. Yeah. There's this thing in our brain called the amygdala, right? And what it does is it's our fight or flight node in our brain, right? And what it does is it tells us, it basically protects us. It spends its entire time protecting us. And so you have this little voice in your mind. It's like, oh, don't knock on that door. Don't knock on that door. We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.